Hello and welcome back to Leeds United. Season 3 begins in earnest now. We've actually played 3 games, but transfer window about to close. It's been a transfer window where we focused on selling those players who don't fit into our system, buying depth in those positions that we do play, and also focusing on the homegrown contingent. It's probably one of the most strategic transfer windows I've ever done. And we start with sales as always. A free agent we acquired at the beginning of last year, and then we changed formation, and he didn't fit anymore. Nor was he really good enough. £4 million, back to Germany. He goes for Tanguy Koulibaly. Again, another free agent who did well for us, actually, in fairness, in Europe, but didn't play all that much, all things considered. Van der Boomen goes to Lens. Back to France for him after we acquired him from a free after being released from Toulouse. £5 million, we'll take it. Sean McGurk got sold for £6 million. It was in the final year of his contract. Liam Cooper's permanent deal went through for £6 million. He's on 71 grand a week at the age of 33 at Valencia, who, by the way, really want Meslier. And out of all the clubs that have come in for Meslier, weirdly, that's the one he wants to go to. They're not even in Europe. Sporting didn't play over I know enough to trigger the permanent deal that was in his loan options, but Stoke decided 8.5 million was enough money for them and bought him instead. So, again, another free agent that we've made money on a year later. Probably the most undervalued deal we've done in terms of sales is Brendan Aronson, 16.25. There was no real bidding war for him, unfortunately. I was hoping it would trigger one, but alas, he's kind of at a club now where he will start at least every single game, which I'm happy for. I'll be honest, Brendan Aronson was one of the players I was most looking forward to using at the start of this Leeds save, and FM have really done him dirty in terms of his overall attributes and potential, quite frankly. What would he be, like 21 at the start of the game? I doubt he'd be a variable at that age, but yeah, his potential and current ability very much undermarked, I think. So it's a shame, but we have 2 midfielders in our formation, and we really needed to get rid of some who weren't homegrown. And then lastly, the 2 biggest sales are the 2... Why is he worth that much money at Young Boys? 24 million was a bit of a cut price deal. He was worth around 30-ish, so 24 we kind of just accepted. A player that we brought in, of course, to play on the wings, and he could play up front, but I'd rather have actual strikers up front. And at the age of 22, I wasn't certain how much development he'd get in a squad role, but bizarrely, Young Boys paid us 24 million. Where they've got 24 million from, no idea. Of course, the fact we've sold him before he's played any significant number of games means we've not paid any extra add-ons either for that. So that's a massive profit. And then lastly, in terms of sale, why is he worth that much at Celtic? Also, I have to question where Celtic got £38 million from, but Jack Harrison just entering his prime, sadly, as well. Another casualty of the formation change, really. I like Jack Harrison as a player in real life as well. Doesn't like big matches, though, which is a weirdly consistent trait amongst this Leeds squad. At least the existing Leeds players. Quite a lot of the players, particularly the forward players, don't like big matches. Not anymore, because we've got rid of them all now, pretty much. But yeah, Celtic paid us £38 million. That was a negotiation, by the way. They came in at 28. I said, let's try 38. And they went, yeah. So I'm pretty certain they would have paid more than 38. How Celtic have got that much money, similarly, no idea. But Leeds bought him for 11 million, of course, after a couple of successful loan spells. It's a profit. And you may be a little bit surprised to see Sinistera go out on loan. I tried to sell him because we've, once again, stocked ourselves up front rather than relying on wingers playing up front. Similarly, doesn't like big matches. You see the issue. It's coming through. All the teams, Wolves came in, asked to loan him. Wolves, who finished ahead of us, have decided to loan Sinistera. They're giving us £4 million for the course of the year. They'll only say 1.4 there, but, you know, when you factor wages in and all that jazz, if we sell him for anything more than 17 million next year, then we've made profit because we've gained 4 million from him this year specifically as well. So just because he got tucked into last year's deals, Brentford bought Sione for 14 million. He never broke into our team. He could have become homegrown at the end of the year, but his potential clearly capped off as other people developed and made that a little bit more obvious for us. They pay £14 million for him. He's actually worth less there for some reason. It's a shame because I thought he might have been decent. And like I say, he would have been homegrown at the end of the year had he stayed. It's all well and good having homegrown players, but if they're not going to be any good. And we start our inbound sales with someone who came in with a deal before things ticked over. I became aware of the fact that Maxi Gomez, now listed as Maximiliano Gomez in the game, was available for a reasonable price. After failing to get sort of end of contract deals for actual forwards like Milik, who went to Newcastle in the end, and Icardi, who went to West Ham, £13 million for Maxi Gomez, who has 6'1", 16 jumping reach and 17 head. Actually, that heading's gone down. It was 18. What's happened to Maxi Gomez? Why is his heading gone down? But even so, really good aerial play for someone who is only 6'1". But he's very good as a pressing forward. Importantly, he takes the pressing forward role on the right-hand side first and foremost. Had a big issue trying to negotiate his wages. His agent is a nightmare. 95 grand he ended up on. Just going to mention him in case he ever becomes relevant, but for homegrown purposes, this guy entered my radar as A, English, B, left back with potential. Don't like his personality, but quite frankly, trying to find young players in the lower divisions is a nightmare. So 17 work rate stood out, 16 stamina stood out off the bat. He's a left back, so the fact he's got one free kick taking, we might have to work on that. But yeah, some good attributes, not physically woeful to begin with. But back on the actual train of players we brought in, Eddie Nketiah, I would say crucial in Leeds' campaign to the Premier League, but he did only score 3 goals last season apparently. But a player that they were heavily linked with when they did get promoted and it never materialised as a transfer, has finally materialised as a transfer 4 years later. Great physicals, mentals exist, and his technicals aren't horrific either. Backup. Homegrown backup. Similarly homegrown backup is Nathan Baxter, who's a 2-star goalkeeper, 4.7 million from Chelsea. We probably paid a little bit too much for him, but he was listed and he is professional as well. This was a deal that went through because Galini had a £14 million bid from Napoli, which he then rejected. Which is fine, because Southampton also triggered Jack Butland's £0 release fee. Yeah, apparently I didn't notice that Jack Butland's release fee wasn't a relegation release fee, it was just a release fee. Thank God it happened to Jack Butland and no one actually important. I can only imagine. Also from Chelsea arrives Levi Colwill. Told you I was looking at homegrown. Kovacevic has gone out on loan to Hanover. Levi Colwill is probably good enough to play in the Europa League. At least he's having to play in the Premier League right now because we've had injuries to 3 centre-backs. So we are down to 3 centre-backs who have to play every single game at this point. I think Satalo has just come back, so we can use him against the Chelsea game that comes next. But £32 million, £32.5 million, valued a lot better than that, of course, but you are paying for the English premium here, and with a bit of potential in him, I'm hoping at the age of 21, clearly not being used by Chelsea, I'm hoping he develops into that potential. I also do like his versatility and the fact he can play left-back. Weirdly stocked with left-footed centre-backs, though, now. In previous games, it's been a bit of difficulty to find left-footed centre-backs, and we've got 4. I'll let this one just sit with you. Makoko was available for a bafflingly viable £59 million. When you factor in all the sales we've made, we've still got 70 million in the transfer budget. I'll go over the finances in a minute because they're confusing. It's only 27 up front and then 27 over time, plus, 50 games played and all that jazz. But it's a transfer fee that was less than his release fee, thankfully. 70 grand a week we're giving him just so he doesn't get wage boosts when he plays games, just to avoid that palaver, just to know where we are with him, really, because he will play games, so it was kind of irrelevant having that. Left-footed, 19, 13 aggression isn't awful. His decisions do let him down a little bit, so he is only regarded as 2 stars as a pressing forward support. But still only 19, and with the ridiculous potential ability, I assume still. When he was on loan with us 2 years ago for half a season, he did get 2 goals, 3 assists and averaged 7.26. Not fantastic, but the average rating was pretty solid. 7.2. I'm pretty certain he played on the wing there mostly as well, rather than up front. He's played 1 game for us so far. As a substitute, got a 7.2. Didn't score. Played 1 game in the Cup, got a 7 flat. So he's doing a lot better for us than he was at Dortmund. Now, this is the situation. Now, we have made profit this season of 19 million, all things considered, due to the sales. That is basically all that's keeping us in the positive in our overall. We have 70 million in the transfer budget, as mentioned, and we've still got 150 grand per week in the wage bill. And yet, with 20 million in the overall balance, that would put us at minus 50 if we were supposed to spend all of it. And even with 20 million and no further incomings, our prediction for the end of the season is minus 12. I do not know what is going on at Leeds. I do not know why that Leeds are making a loss. Bear in mind we're in Europe. Bear in mind we're in the Premier League, so that's with the 80 million television stuff. It's with the end of season prize money. We're still making I don't think, actually, that might not factor in the end of season prize money, now I think about it. But even so, the end of season prize money for where we're kind of finishing is about 20, 30 million. So I don't get it. And it's not like we're paying back debts. We are paying back debts, but not to that kind of scale. It's 140 grand a month, weirdly, for 20 odd years. Why they don't just pay more a month for a shorter period, I don't know. It only adds up to about 1.7 million a year. So I don't know where the outgoing is, because there's no longer a decent page that shows you the outgoings. I can see salary commitments, of course, and things like that, but I can't see a proper yearly breakdown of expenditure. I can see this season's breakdown so far, but I can't see the overall breakdown season per season. I can see the overall last season was 336 million, but that includes sales, that includes purchases, so it's not really that helpful. I would love to be able to see this on a yearly basis, like projection, but going backwards. But that's by the by. We played 3 games. We beat Liverpool on the first day. I wasn't expecting it. I apologise for not bringing you it. Wolves were beat 1-0 away from home thanks to a scoff-free kick, and penalties saw us past Norwich. We did entirely rotate for that team. Oscar Gluck started that game and scored. I'm bringing you the last game before the deadline day, and then we'll do deadline day together. I also forgot that the Europa League wasn't a draw anymore. I'm trying to get my head around it, but the first 8 teams go to the round of 16, kind of as they did before, basically the equivalent of being first in the groups. The next 8, the next 16 teams make the knockoff playoff. Wait, the next 16 teams make the playoff round. So there's no dropping of teams between competitions anymore. I'll be honest, I was expecting that to say the next 8 make the playoff and the next 8 make the playoffs of the Conference League. So is that kinda? Because I presume the same situation happens in the Champions League now as well. So there's no more dropping through the competitions, which is actually probably a good thing, particularly for us, because it means we don't end up with the rejects from the Champions League. I don't really know how the games are sorted out. I don't know what decides who plays who, but our biggest opponents are Betis and Atalanta. They're the 2 biggest teams that we play. I wonder if this is factored into coefficient order to begin with, this original table. So I'll just say it now. We will probably cover the Betis and Arsenal, and we'll cover the Atalanta and probably Newcastle before it. We'll probably do those in upcoming episodes just because the Europa League changed. We probably do have to give it a certain amount of focus. The last 2 games are Karabakh and Utrecht. It doesn't finish till the end of January now, which is annoying. I presume the knockouts turn up in February somewhere, as they kind of did before, but that'll be the first round of knockouts. I imagine the round of 16 doesn't turn until March as it did last time. So it's a new system we have to fathom. We've got Portsmouth in the 3rd round of the Carabao Cup, so that's fine too. Chelsea today, it's a rivalry. Still don't really understand why. We get called a rivalry with Liverpool as well. But Sitalo is returning to fitness. It says 45 minutes, but he's not fit at all, quite frankly. Plattenhart's taken an injury. One other thing to mention is that Julian Ord is now officially in the first team. He did play the Olympics and got into the Olympics team of the Olympics, the best 11 from that competition, along with Alan Saint-Maximin, who weirdly played in it despite not being a young player. He must be one of France's overs that they used for some reason. But because of the Olympics, he's a little bit jaded because he's played through the summer, so I can't use him too much. I was hoping to use sort of Marvin and Skov for August, but then Marvin got a sports hernia. Marvin's down to 2 stars overall. His physicals have dropped off the cliff. I was tempted to sell him, but he's only worth 2 billion, and he leaves at the end of the year anyway. So the full team is Melly and Dicker, Colwell, Cresswell, Skov, Livramento, Zobazlai, Almada, Bamford, Pedro, and Gomez. I will just say, because of the finances and the fact that we're predicted to be in negative anyway at the end of the season, I'm not looking to do any further deals, despite 70 billion transfer fees in the bank. It's an annoying situation, but it is what it is. Oh, yeah, minor side note, I don't think the game understands the new European format, because eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed in that Europa League table there was A, Brentford, who finished 7th and would have normally gone into the Conference League, and B, no Wolves, who did qualify for the Europa League. They're in the Champions League instead. Haaland scored 2 goals, I've just noticed. So yeah, I'm not fully certain if FM has understood the Champions League change when it comes to the Premier League rules, because the Premier League still shows the European places in the rules for the Premier League from before the change. I'm not sure if more teams get in now. Also, fun fact, as Chelsea look threatening here, the Netherlands are ahead of France in the coefficients. This is dangerous. The Netherlands are 5th and France are 6th in the coefficients. So the Netherlands get more places than France. Mount puts this ball in. Livramento acrobatically clears. I can't remember precisely what the rules are for those extra places in the Champions League, because if I remember rightly, there's 2 extra random places beyond the coefficients for certain reasons. That's deflected above. I think it's like for the next best team with the highest coefficient or something. I can't quite remember. Fofana scores from a corner. That's irritating. Did he jump for it? We're just on jump watch here, seeing who... Oh, he actually has. It did look like one of my defenders tried to jump as well, but there's a novelty. So yeah, I don't know if FM needs to do a patch for that, because it feels like they have forgotten the rules of the new Champions League. They've built the new Champions League, but they've forgotten to amend the league rules for it. or at least put a note in the league rules. I mean, that was a great challenge, but ultimately pointless. And I was mildly concerned it was going to be listed as a red card or something because he went through him. Animations don't necessarily match up, as we've long since established. Can we, like, maybe do something in this game? Lukaku, sort of challenged, Coop Miners, vaguely pressed. For a team whose instructions are press all the time, we don't do a lot of pressing. This has been shambolic from us, quite frankly, as well. I get specifically defensively, you've had to do a lot of games because 3 of our defenders have been injured for August. The rest of you, you've got no excuse. I rotated you for Norwich, Mount. The only people who can be mad right now are Cresswell and Colwill. I think I even rested on Dicko because I played Mark Rocker in central defence, because he can. Melee plays it short to Cresswell, plays it short to Colwill. I'm not going to lie, I do like the Cresswell-Colwill combination, just phonetically. Oh, they've acquired Baku at Chelsea as well. Chelsea have made some moves this summer, although they are playing Hudson-Odoi. But they have acquired, clearly, Baku at some point, who's playing on the left-hand side. Bloody hell, can anyone just do anything that resembles pressing? Livramento will have to go down as the blame for this, apparently. Why is Livramento down for the blame from this? How is Livramento at all involved in this? The blame lands on A, Szoboszlai, who has the number 7 shirt now, who doesn't press Mount, and B, the central defender who was in front of Mount, who doesn't press him either. Like, one of you two should be doing it. And Ducky gives the ball to Sterling, nearly 3-0. Mount to put a corner in. Melia gathers that one without too much fuss, thankfully, and that's probably end of highlight unless we're building something from it. We're not building anything from it. Skov gives the ball away. Lukaku, Hudson-Odoi. Mount is clean through here, kinda. No, we've marshaled him out of the way. Hudson-Odoi. Livramento does something that vaguely resembles pressing. I just want to double check. Much more often, high press as well up here and trap them outside. The whole point is to funnel into those outside areas where the wingbacks can press them, and that was their example of pressing. Livramento, who isn't shabby on his old aggression front either, particularly for a fullback. Maxi Gomez next to the ball. Pedro, Cresswell, Colwill. I do love our luminous socks, by the way. Colwill, just complete aside. This match engine, man. This match engine. Love that attempt from pressing from Livramento there. Just walk up to him and then run away. As I can't keep going on with this match engine like that. Just the central defenders just watch him walk through. That cannot be how this game is coded or meant to be coded. It is unfathomable that is what is being accepted by this QA team or whatever. Like, how can anyone from a production point of view watch that happen and it's on a game-by-game basis and think, that makes sense? It's so annoying because everything else to do with this match engine is great. I know it sounds like I'm going on about it. Coop Minor scores a free kick. Can't really do much about those. Scoff scored 1 against Wolves. You know, goes your way, goes against you. But everything else about this match ending is fantastic. The fluidity, if anyone could actually pass the ball, would be great to begin with. But the animation fluidity, shall we say, the ball animation fluidity, it's a little too fluid, really, maybe, for the game. But Maxi Gomez is not doing too well. Nekatira is right-footed. On you go, Sunshine. Amada is tired. Tyler Adams can come on. Szoboszlai for Mark Rocker. I mean, Pedro and Bamford aren't having good games, but I haven't put Moukoko on the bench. That's because he got injured. That might be something to do with it. Milovanovic, fairly strong left foot. Both of you are fairly strong left feet. Skov for Ord as well. Christensen's also injured as well, right back fill-in. So Livramento going to have to tough it out. I've made all 5 changes. We've had 1 shot on target. I don't really understand how we've been so bad in this game compared to Chelsea. Like, Chelsea have just run through us. When you consider we beat Liverpool 4-2, I don't understand what's just happened there. Same team, same formation. Also beat Wolves away, which is the first time we've done that, I think. I mean, it's still 6 points from the first 3 games that involved Liverpool and Chelsea. We'll take it, quite frankly. Like, if you'd offered me 6 points from those first 3 games, Liverpool, Wolves away and Chelsea away, if you offered me 6 points for that, I'd have snapped your hand off. Quite frankly, I'd have accepted 2 points from that because Wolves are kind of our bogey team and Chelsea obviously aren't too shabby either. Forgot to mention, you may have seen it on the season preview page, at the very least. Brighton and Everton were re-promoted. QPR came up, and I can't imagine it's going to go spectacularly well. They have lost all 3 games so far and conceded 10 goals and scored none. I know I said I need to get rid of midfielders, but when you see our... I'll look up the actual pronunciation, but when you see our available for low teens millions, because inexplicably he's at Monterrey, he's agreed to be a squad player. The reason why I'm doing this, by the way, is because Mark Rocker's physicals are atrocious. I hadn't really noticed how bad they were I did have to pay on the top end of his value for this, and I'm just paying it all up front. I'm not doing any faff with this one. I'm expecting him to be worth in at least the 30 millions when he signs. But yeah, Mark Rocker's physicals are all sort of like 11s and 12s at most. So he's kind of dropped down my pecking order. Still in the bottom half of wage expenditure with 1.9 million per week. That's with URs, as predicted, 27 to 30 million. His star rating's lower here than it was when we scouted him there. Oh flip, I left Rocker out of my Europa League squad. Well, I thought the decision was Andre Santos versus Gagliardini. I didn't realise I'd left Mark Rocker out as well. Clarnart I knew, but he's not very good anymore. Galuk I knew, but he's like 7th choice striker. I tried to loan him out. He wouldn't go on loan. Like, these three I was prepared for. I'd kind of forgotten about you. No worries. I can't accept that. Surely I'm more valuable to your squad than the alternative picks ahead of me. No. The one thing I don't understand about Andre Santos is I'm pretty certain he should count as under 21 because he has been with us 2 years. I wonder if he'll count in January because we loaned him out for half a year. But anyway, we'll bring you back for Europa League action, which will be the third game with Betis alongside Arsenal in the Premier League in October. If you enjoyed this episode, despite the loss, at the very least, I'm hoping the transfers are positive. So if you have liked it, or even if you haven't liked it, like, comment in particular, and subscribe. Until next time, ta-ra.